Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our bootcamp, AI Automation Bootcamp Day 5. I'm sorry. Welcome to our AI Automation Bootcamp Day 4. And today we are going to be looking into webhooks and APIs. Now we're going to be looking into what webhooks are, how they work, and practical example of its usage, or real life example of how you actually had to use webhooks. Webhooks are simply used to send messages between one app and the other to get immediate response. Yeah, that's basically what webhooks are all about. And we are going to also look into APIs. Uh, Sorry about how the camera is. I'm trying to try out my webcam for the first time, and feel free to drop a comment and tell me how the camera is, whether it's good or it's bad. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and then APIs. Yeah, we're going to be looking also into APIs, and we're going to be looking at what APIs are and how APIs actually work. Before we actually dive directly into anything, I'll just give us a brief explanation of what webhooks are and how they work, and then also give us a brief explanation of what API is and how API works. And yeah, after that, we dive right into the training. For today, our training is not going to be that long because I found out some of us are still trying to recover from JSON, the training on JSON. So what we're just going to be doing today is that we're just going to give a basic introduction into what webhooks are and the basic introduction of how they actually work. With that being said, let's get into the explanation of what webhooks are. Talking about webhooks. Webhooks, as I said, are event driven. Now, when you talk about webhooks, they actually are activated when something happens somewhere within a software, within a website, within a web app, within an application. Yes, when an event happens within a place, it sends data automatically. It sends a message automatically. It sends data, it sends a message automatically. Now, from the example that we, or the information that we have here in front of us, it says event driven, sends data automatically when something happens. For an example, a form submission. Once a form is submitted within let's say within a website, a webhook sends a message automatically. So a webhook is simply put, webhook, okay, we can simply put that a webhook is is like a little messenger that automatically tells one app when something important happens in another app. Now, like, that's just simply put what a webhook is. We can just simply put it as by saying that a webhook is like a little messenger that automatically tells one app when something important happens in another app. Instead of one app actually constantly asking, did something happen yet? Did something happen yet? No. Instead of that, webhooks just push information right as soon as the event occurs. So that's basically what I've been trying to say since I've trying to explain with about what webhooks are. But on the other hand, API request is slightly different. API, just like the hand we see here shaking each other, API is is let's call him the middleman that stands in between two apps or two softwares or two websites that enables you to integrate one website into the workings of another website. Now, it is request driven. Mostly we say you send an API request. It is request driven. As it is written here, you ask for data and get a response. Unlike this one, that automatically happens immediately an event occurs. Once you want to send an API request, you say it is sent as a request. It is sent as a request. You ask for data and you get a response. Now, when we get into the our video, our training, our bootcamp, the 5, which is tomorrow, we're actually going to see how we can actually integrate APIs. Now, we use APIs. Let's say you want to link you're creating a workflow that requires you to actually use you're creating a workflow that actually requires you to use OpenAI or an AI agent, and you decide to use Gemini, or in this case you decide to use OpenAI to get as an agent, or to create your workflow, or to create your AI agent. You need to link your OpenAI to your N10, and the only medium by which you can do that is by the use of API. So you send an API request. In the same way, for you to link your N10 to either your Facebook or your YouTube, for the example that we'll even practice tomorrow, we are going to actually see how we can actually link our Facebook, or rather our YouTube, to our N8N in order for us to upload videos automatically using N8N. So that's basically what APIs are and what webhooks are. So for today, we are just going to run through a brief basic explanation of what webhooks are and how we actually can use webhooks. A practical example of how we can use webhooks on in N8N. So that's what we are going to handle today or right now. So sit back, relax, and if you need a jotter, get your jotter. If you need to take a sip of water, so relax as we head right into N8N and see how we use webhooks. Just the basic introduction. When we get to tomorrow, we will see how we use APIs to upload videos, and we also see how we use webhooks. As we said earlier, today we are looking at webhooks and APIs. So I'm going to just give you a basic intro to webhooks. We're not going to go into the advanced part of how we can actually use webhooks to practically do things. So basically, I'm just going to show you how webhooks works. So we are going to come to add a trigger. We are going to use a webhook call. So when the webhook node opens up, if we look around, what we'll see test URL and we'll see production URL. The difference between test URL and production URL is when you're using the test URL, you're only using it for when you are testing a workflow. And production URL, you find out that okay, let's check it again. When you come to test URL, you find out that this URL that is below here, if you look right here, it says test. But once you enter production URL, test is no longer there. So that's just basic difference between test and production URL. And then we are going to, for this example, we are just going to use get. Now, for webhook calls, we usually use HTTP request. You can either use a get or a post. All of these are here for a reason, but 95% of the time we are either going to be using a get or a post. All right. So if we look at this phrase, it says path. Now, if you look at this part right here, is the exact same thing with the end of the URL here. So for this, we are going to change our path. We are going to say, we are going to rename our path to webhook example. Yeah, webhook example. So this is what we're going to call this URL, this path right here. Now, most times you're supposed to actually get authentication, but okay, let me explain what an authentication is. It's like a tiny kind of, let's call it a password, whereby if you don't want other people to have access to this webhook call, you use authentication. What it does is, if they don't have that password, if they don't have that passcode, if they don't have that secret key, they cannot access your webhook. But for this example, we are not going to use, most times we use the header auth. This is the header auth. We have the basic auth, the JSON I've forgotten what this is called, but yeah. But for now, we are going to use none for now. So we want the response to be immediately, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, to know how this works, in practical example, what webhooks literally does is that whenever an action happens somewhere, or in a site or something, you get a response. A message is sent from your webhook. I will actually go. We will actually use a practical example of what webhooks actually do, but not for today. We are going to do that after we finish with practical. Okay, we are going to do that alongside tomorrow. We're going to do that tomorrow alongside with the practical example of APIs, or how to use APIs. But for today, we are just going to do this basic example. So what we do here is we just come here. Once you come on this URL and tap on it, you immediately copy it. Now it's simple. How to use webhooks is literally very simple. For the advanced example we are going to do, we are going to use a Postman. But for this, we are just going to use our browser. So we're just going to come here and say listen. Now your webhook is listening. You come here, you paste your URL. Now, once your URL is activated or tapped on or used, your workflow is automatically activated and your workflow automatically runs, as we can actually see here. Now see the information that is given to us. Now the host, it tells the output information, shows the person who ran the workflow. It gives a host of information, the system I'm using, the accepts encoding. It has the cookie, a whole lot of information about what I just did right now. So this is just a basics or a simple introduction of how webhooks works. But for today, we are not going to go deeper into this. As I said, I just wanted to explain how webhook works, and then I just give this simple example. Tomorrow we are going to handle the APIs. I'm going to do tomorrow I'm going to run create a workflow using APIs. I'm going to show you how to actually create a workflow that you can literally upload videos to your YouTube with just your workflow. Then we're going to see how you actually implement the usage of APIs, and then I'm as well going to show you how you can use webhooks or how you can use webhooks practically. Yes. Today is a very short lesson. Today is a very short training, and I believe that is it for today. I just wanted to show us how webhooks work, because I noticed that the last last lecture, that was the one on the JSON, it was kind of overwhelming. Not a lot of people have taken their time to go through that training very well. So that is why yesterday we didn't actually upload any videos or any training videos, but for today we're just going to take it slow. You just understand how webhooks works, and tomorrow we're actually going to give